When you book a podcast sponsor, one of two things is going to happen. Either they're going to send you a brief and say, this is exactly what we want you to say, when to say it, and here's the music to put under it, and thank you for your business. Or, and more likely in my experience, they're going to say, this is what we want you to talk about as it relates to you and your podcast and your audience. Here's a few things we want you to include, you must include, thank you for your business. If you're anything like me, the first time you get that brief that says, talk about this however it relates to you, you're going to think, what do I need to say? What should I actually say? How do I make this an amazing ad so that people not only listen to it, but more people want to partner with me? Or at least I hope that's what you're thinking. In this episode, we're going to take a real event that I'm making an ad for on one of my podcasts, talk about how to break it down into a readable, memorable, actionable ad, and most importantly, how you can create ads your listeners don't want to skip the moment that they hear that different music playing. Hello and welcome to Podcast for Profit. My name is Morgan Franklin. I'm a podcast producer, strategist, and educator. This podcast will help you create and grow a podcast that cuts through the noise of social media and speaks directly to your target audience. If you're ready to create a podcast that will align you with the experts in your industry, position yourself as a trusted leader, and create another source of revenue for your business, you're in the right place. Why is podcast advertising so powerful? Because it isn't some random person that you've never met telling you about a product or a service or an event. It's the podcast host. It's the host that we as an audience have come to know and love and trust. It's the host that we've spent hundreds or thousands of hours listening to, and their recommendation means something, or at least it should mean something. I remember it was about a year ago, I got a message from a sponsor of one of my shows with 3 very clearly ChatGPT generated ads. There's no problem with this. And a little bit later in the episode, we're going to talk about how you can properly use AI to help you start writing an ad. But the problem for this ad was that it had no zazz. It was not a personal recommendation. It has no meaning for me as the listener, hearing the host read off just a bunch of facts that are totally disconnected from the show. So I'm going to read you actually the ChatGPT ad that the sponsor sent us. I've changed some of the details just to protect the privacy of the ad sponsor, but I wanted you to hear this because I know that you guys know when something was written by ChatGPT, but I just want you to hear it and hear just how clearly this was written by a robot and not a person. And then I'm going to tell you what ad we actually ended up making for this person. So this is the ad. This episode is brought to you by Glendale Resort and Marina in historic Portland, Tennessee. Glendale is a boutique destination resort and marina on scenic Grundy Hill Lake. The resort offers guests a rare collection of lodging styles with vintage Airstreams and waterfront cabins to floating harbor cottages and a new 2-story inn. It's the perfect destination this fall to explore hiking trails and waterfalls. Be energized with an on-site massage treatment. Walk on Tennessee's longest lake border walk. Glendale also offers 3 event spaces with commanding views that host corporate events, group retreats, family gatherings, holiday parties, and weddings. Events at Glendale are personalized with catering, AV equipment, room darkening capabilities, excursions, and much more. Tucked away off the beaten trail, nestled in nature, an hour away from Knoxville and only 11 miles off I-60, Glendale is a hidden gem. For more information, visit glendale.com. Now, that wasn't terrible. It wasn't awful, but it's very forgettable, right? Like, it tells me nothing about why I should really go there. It's an ad for a list of features. So let's listen to the ad I restructured and sent back to them. What makes a once-in-a-lifetime vacation for our family? That's something I ask myself every time my wife and I sit down to plan our next family trip. Individually, it isn't the food, activities, accommodations, or even destination. It's the stories, the laughter, the memories, and quality time spent together that simply couldn't be recreated anywhere else. This summer, we spent our vacation with Glendale Resort Marina in historic Portland. As someone who's always loved the lake but never had sea legs for a boat, I love that we could choose from the lodging at waterfront cabins, floating harbor cottages, vintage Airstreams, or even their new 2-story inn. We enjoyed daily walks on Tennessee's longest lake border walk, on-site massages, hiking to waterfalls, and finished every day with an incredible meal from Lakeside Restaurant. If you're looking for a venue to accommodate an upcoming wedding or family gathering or corporate retreat, Glendale Resort has 3 event spaces with spectacular lake views, personalized with catering, AV equipment, room darkening capabilities, excursions, and much more. Only an hour from Knoxville, 11 miles from I-60, Glendale Resort is the getaway you've been searching for. For more information, go to glendale.com. All right, so let's look at these two and how they're different from each other. The biggest thing, at least to me, and again, what I find to be the most important thing to keep in mind if you're writing ads is how are you speaking about the subject? Are you recommending it or are you just talking about it? How are you combining the audience's lived experiences and interests with what you're trying to sell them? How are you connecting the listener to what the sponsor is providing? What about this part? The part where we say, individually, it isn't the food, activities, accommodations, or even destination. It's the stories, the memories, and quality time spent together that simply couldn't be recreated anywhere else. Dang, that says more to me about this place than anything else could. Because as listeners, we know an amazing vacation really isn't where you're staying or where you're going. It's the time you're spending with friends and family and the people that you love. It's how it makes us feel. So think about that when you're writing an ad for your podcast or trying to figure out what to say for your ad. How can I stop shoving features down the listener's throat and instead show them the outcome of what they'll have? Or better yet, the feeling they will have. And again, it's worth noting here all of the times that the host is telling you what they personally love about this place. Isn't that so much more impactful to you as a listener than some random ad copy about this resort? Here are a few tips for when you have a company that is giving you a brief and they say, hey, you take this in whatever direction you want to. We just want it to sound good and sell to people. No matter what, you always need to get approval from the person you're doing the ad with. Even if it's not disclosed in your contract, even if they never brought it up. Take the time to write out exactly what you're going to say and send it to the people you have been communicating with at this company. This is what they're paying you for. And at the end of the day, you want them to be happy with their experience. That is the most important thing. So take that extra second to write down what you're going to say. If it's a 60-second ad, it's going to be 2 paragraphs. Take a minute to write it down, send it to them and say, hey, does this look good? I know that you gave me creative freedom, but I just wanted to make sure, does this cover everything that you wanted to talk about in this ad? If you have time to visit the store or go to the place that you're talking about or get the product, do it. People know when you're not being genuine. Your listener knows when you're giving a recommendation for something and you have never used it before. Your audience is so smart. So don't lose your listeners by misleading them to get a sponsor. You are still you, even when it's on an ad. When you're starting an ad, get straight into it. Stay away from phrases like, this episode is sponsored by, or our partner for this episode is. People should not be tipped off to the fact that this is an ad. It should be you starting it with a question or a statement, or even starting a story that's going to hook us in. Don't give them the opportunity to pick up the phone and hit skip. Because the moment that you say this is an ad, people are immediately tuning out. If you really don't know where to start with a podcast ad, ask ChatGPT to help you out. There is nothing wrong with using it as a guide or even as an outline. But what it's going to give you is most likely not going to be up to the standards of your actual human listener. If you read it out loud and think, wow, that sounds like a robot, it's not ready to be recorded. But I use ChatGPT all of the time to help me outline ads, and I'll just give it the information and say, hey, will you write me a 60-second ad? And I'll read what it comes up with, because I think that's a really good place to start. But like I said, so many times it's just so formal and it does not sound like the way that we actually speak. So don't just put it in there and then regurgitate what it gives you. Actually take a minute and think, would I say that? Does that sound natural? Does that sound like a story someone would want to hear? Does this sound like something someone would want to hear? And go from there. You know, there's no better way to learn than doing. So let's write a podcast ad together. I have a podcast ad I'm working on, and they just sent me the brief for the event it's advertising. Again, I'm going to change a few of the details because it's actually an advertiser and this is going to be an actual ad. So here's the information for the event. We can have creative freedom as long as we get across the name of the event, where it is, and what it's about. We are pleased to announce that we are hosting the area's first literary gala, an event designed to create and support the growth of literacy and love of books in our hometown. The 2024 gala is a masquerade ball with a theme steeped in literature. We're calling it Three Musketeers Masquerade. This will be a fun and purposeful evening, starting with a silent auction at 6, followed by a delicious dinner at 7, dancing, and lots of entertaining and fun, all in the presence of friends who love books and the power of reading in our community. The dress for this event is formal, and you're encouraged to dress in theme or wear a mask for intrigue. 100% of proceeds from the literary gala will be used to fund the growth of literacy and evolution of book culture in our community. This includes projects like providing new books to local schools, hosting free author, writer, and creative arts events every week, curating book donations to regional nonprofits, offering special community-wide author events that build book culture. Tickets are $150 and table sponsorships are available as well. Please visit website. Okay. So straight off the top, I know obviously they want to focus on books and reading and literacy, obviously. What do we think of when we think of books? Personally, I think of adventure. Like the theme is the Three Musketeers. So I want this ad to be fun and exciting and kind of childlike. Obviously, the host can't talk about how much fun it is because it's a first time event, because I'd normally start the ad with some kind of like testimonial or recommendation. But since it's never happened before, I think we should start with something else, like maybe join us for a night where literature comes alive. It's kind of cheesy, but again, we're going for fun, adventure, kid kind of angle. This event is about kids and reading, so I don't really think it should be that serious. So yeah, I kind of like that. Join us for a night where literature comes alive. After that, like I said, we need to get straight into it. Don't waste any time. If you want to know my short advice for podcasters writing ads, it's to get right into it. People don't want backstory. They want to be entertained. So at this part of the ad, after I've had my little intro, I want to say what the event is, what the listener can expect, where it is, and why they might be interested in going. I'm thinking something like, our community bookstore invites you to its first ever literary gala, the Three Musketeers Masquerade, where every page turned is a life changed. Okay, that's kind of cheesy, but okay. On September 20th at Town Hall Center, join us for an enchanting evening of mystery and elegance. Don your finest formal wear and a mask for a night of entertainment and intrigue as we celebrate the power of books in our community. All right, so let's stop right there. You want to have enough details that people know what's going on, but not so many that they're skipping through the ad. So keep that in mind when you're writing an ad, is you have to get everything in there and it has to sound interesting. But with the brief that they sent us, we got to kind of skip through that. Your ticket unlocks a night of wonder, starting with a silent auction at 6, followed by dinner at 7. It'll be a night of dancing, entertainment, fun, and of course, the magic of learning. We've talked a lot about the details, and that's fine. With ads like this, you have to get a lot in, so it can be kind of cramped and not leave a lot of room for creativity, but we still have to get into why someone would actually want to come to this event and what it will be giving back to the community. Best of all, 100% of donations raised will stay in our community by providing new books to schools, hosting free workshops, and creating a community-wide culture of reading. Together, we're writing a brighter future. So, okay, great. remember that long list of things that they said that they did, we can kind of condense it down to this one sentence. And really, that's all we have. So make sure when you're trying to list out features and benefits that you take just the top highlights and shorten those down even more, because that's exactly what we did. If you remember, they had the long list of everything that it contributed to. This is our one sentence that we took out of that. Then we need to end with a call to action. So get your tickets for the Three Musketeers Masquerade before they're gone. Find more about the event and buy tickets from the link in the episode description. Okay, so that's a great 60-second ad for an event. It's well-rounded. It covers everything the advertiser asked us to. And it really makes you feel as a listener more in touch with what the event will be like, what the essence of this event is really trying to give us. Ads like these are absolutely perfect for sound effects and music and using audio to help you tell the story. I have about 5 different notes that I had written down on sound effects to use, so I'm going to just read those for you really quick. The first is for it to open with a very whimsical, almost Shire-esque music and glasses clinking, then have a sword kind of swing down and clank, have that sound, pages turning, kids laughing and talking, and then ending the entire ad with a very dramatic, like orchestral movement. Music and sound effects make such a huge difference in ads. My tip for you on sound design and adding effects is to make sure everything is matched for loudness and export it and listen to the entire ad before you add it to your episode. There is just nothing worse than having a sound effect that is way too loud for the ad or layered sounds that don't make sense together. And I know that you guys have heard ads like this and podcasts like this. So if you're going to use effects, take that extra little step and export what you're working on and listen to it with your own headphones or however you would normally listen to a podcast and make sure that it actually works. Any ad that you are producing for your podcast should be nearly perfect. If someone is paying you to represent their brand on your podcast, you need to be flawless. I hope this is obvious from this entire episode, but don't just wing it. Don't just randomly work it into the beginning or middle or end of your show. I hear podcasters trying to do this all the time. And from a brand perspective, why would another company ever want to work with you if they know that you're that lazy? If they can see that you aren't taking the time to even write out copy for their ad, much less actually produce it. This is your whole job. Just remember, there's never a traffic jam on the extra mile. And I know that I always have to get some kind of cheesy little saying in here, but it's so true. And especially if you're a smaller creator, you need to pay attention to how you're showing up. How are you utilizing the opportunities that you're given? And if a larger company were looking at you to do a partnership, what do you think that they would honestly be expecting from you? Because every time you put something out, that's another opportunity for them to see how you would be working with them. If you have any questions on writing podcast ads or how to get sponsors in the first place, send me a message, reach out on my website, and we'll get to work. And as always, I can't wait to listen to your podcast. Hey, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. If you enjoyed the podcast and you'd like to hear more episodes like this one, go ahead and subscribe to the show. New episodes air every Monday morning. And if you found this episode valuable and you want to help other business owners and podcasters, will you leave me a 5-star review? It helps the show rank higher in the charts and brings more entrepreneurs the information they need to start making money on their podcast.